I'm Leon, and today we're taking a look at the Adventure Force, or Air Warriors Rouge, a semi-auto flywheel gun that's, well, pretty cool. Let's take a look at it. Okay, I will cut to the chase. You are probably primarily buying this because you're curious about the 30-round mag, which I am extremely happy to report that this 30-round mag is the same in build quality of the Air Warriors 14s that I've raved about on this channel. So there's the answer for this. I haven't had any reliability issues while testing this. This drum is still fairly new. It's nice and clear, it's pretty reliable, and it's a little bit smaller than the Nerf one, but it's a little bit taller in this case. And it's got kind of some feet to stand it up if you needed to. It's not bad. Okay, that's the drum. That's probably what you were here for. But there's a blaster with that $25 price tag. And that's this guy, the Rouge. It's pretty futuristic sci-fi looking. And fun fact, this thing actually comes with attachments. First of which is this thread-on barrel with the front iron sight. It's not compatible with the Eradicator. I've tried. It doesn't work. It is a completely proprietary barrel. Why you would want this? Storage, primarily. It does actually shorten the blaster by at least a couple inches, which is pretty fine. And yeah, it just threads on. It doesn't really affect any performance. It's fine. You'll also be able to notice that I can rev with the mag out, but I can't rev when the jam door is open. I'll talk about the jam door in a little bit. But you can go ahead and thread on the barrel for when you want to use it. Do I recommend it? Well, kinda. You don't really need it, but that front iron sight can correspond if you're running kind of nothing else to either these sort of rear posts that don't really see the front sight unless you're tilting the blaster, or if you're running a smaller scope like the one that's included on the Rebel, it can correspond to that too. It's a nice big iron sight that honestly can help you out quite a bit. Right, this scope. This is the included scope. It is unlike anything I've ever seen from Air Warriors because it's like exceptionally cheap. I'm not a fan of this scope at all. It's hindering to the jam door. It's really big and plasticky, and I don't know. It seems a little too immature in my book. It's just really cheap. It looks very, very flimsy, very cheap. The reticle is certainly fine, and I can at least talk about it's perfectly aligned, but this is not a highlight of this blaster at all. But the good news is, if you're not a fan of that scope, you can actually take the one off of your other Air Warriors guns, the Predator, the Rebel. I have the Rebel right now with me, and you can slide it on. I actually really like the look of that. It's a nice, simple kind of scope that corresponds nicely with the front iron sight if you need the arc. And it's decent looking, actually. I think this is a really compelling CQB package, so that's super cool. This is not a Nerf rail, though. It will not work with your Nerf attachments or your Dartone attachments or anything else, so sorry, but you gotta stick with the Air Warrior stuff, which, considering that their scopes are actually not that bad, don't mind that. No other customizations on this blaster. This blaster is compatible with every mag that I threw it with. That includes Nerf mags it works just fine with. Works with the Easy Fire 14s and the Tornadoes 14, actually. I recently found out that blaster came with these. Works just fine. In fact, if I was to run it, I probably wouldn't even run the drum, except for my first mag of the match, then swap to maybe 2 14s. It's pretty fine. Up on the top here is going to be the jam door. This has got to be one of the best accessibility jam doors ever. It is so easy to open, you don't need nails, and now my compliments kind of stop. That is tiny. It's still enough access to do what you maybe need to do, but this is a tiny, tiny space. Like really, really tiny, and kind of sharp here too. I'm not a huge fan of that. I think it's okay. It certainly works. You can also take out the mag and you can clear this way. The mag well's got enough space for you. But, I don't know. It's not fantastic, but it's not bad either. It's a jam door. It does flip up, and when it's open, you can't prime the blaster, or rev up the blaster, rather. But even without the mag, you can rev the blaster just fine. And it's pretty fun. It looks like this moves, but actually this moves. This is your battery door. You go ahead and you put a screwdriver in here, go ahead and undo it, and then the batteries stand vertically in the back here. I've never seen this, but here's the thing. That setup is really nice. This blaster is very lightweight, and this is with the batteries included. Once you put the drum in, it's a different story, but let's just say you're running this as sort of an SMG. Let's say no scope. This is really lightweight. It's a really lightweight package. It still has some heft to it, especially towards the front, but yeah, I like it. And this setup isn't bad. It evenly disperses the weight in the middle of the blaster, right above where your hand's going to be holding it. So you know what? Fair game. This is going to be a different style, but still a paddle mag release. It doesn't really matter if a mag has a hump or not. There is perfect clearance here for whatever mag you're going to throw in it, because, well, it had to take the drum. It had to have enough space for your drums. Absolutely fantastic mag release. The magwell is a little stiff. You can see that you can't really just shake it out, but you know what? It's fine. I like it. I have no complaints about this mag release, and it feels super strong, too. You can feel that the spring strength in there is absolutely exceptional, which is good, because this thing came with a 30-round drum. Now down to the grip. Okay, this grip's going to take some getting used to. When I first opened this blaster up, I absolutely hated this grip, and there is still something that I'm not super pleased with. But now it's kind of grown on me. I don't think it's super comfortable, but for smaller Nerfers, I think you'll actually be okay with this. It's really narrow where the length of pull is, but it's really wide at the bottom of it. No trigger guard either, which is a little odd. And also the size of the trigger. Absolutely massive, like a 2-finger trigger. But if it's a 2-finger trigger, it becomes a little hard to justify the rev trigger that's down here, which is also massive. But if it's a 1-finger, then you're going to have a lot of fatigue running that very, very quickly. That's kind of the #1 issue I had with this blaster, is just fatigue. This trigger is very heavy. It's a very heavy pick, and even 2 fingers like this still feels really inconsistent because I'm just not used to using my ring finger on the rev triggers and whatnot. Also, this blaster only takes 4 AA batteries. So we're going to get into that in my opinion section, but just be warned, 4 AA batteries is regular Nerf performance. And I'll demonstrate that by showing you the firing demo. Shooting a full drum of the included Air Warriors Accublast darts, then another full mag of them, then another mag with just anything out of it. Talk about some of the good first. The drum is really nice. It comes with 30 of the Accublast darts, which are really fantastic. Just go ahead and load them in and fire them real quick. I am a big fan of that. The magazine release feels really nice. The front grip is extremely comfortable. The rear grip isn't super great. And it does have that nice little attachment for a small scope, which can make this thing kind of run like a sort of SMG blaster kind of thing. Now to the bad. No stock attachment point means you have to basically hip fire or aim this thing. It's not like a blaster that really matters, but that extra stability, especially since this trigger is very, very, very resistant, could have been really nice. It's not there. It's not like a deal breaker or anything, but it could have definitely been better. This jam door's access is great, but the actual sort of getting into the blaster isn't super fantastic. One note, this blaster has horizontal flywheels. I think the last blaster that had that is the Nitron. Don't quote me on that, but that reminds me a little bit of the Nitron. Being able to pre-rev when you're going ahead and loading your mags, that's super nice. That's really good to have. I'm super happy about that. Cons, this blaster is super lightweight when you're running it in just a sort of regular gunner style, but this drum makes this blaster really heavy, and as such this grip becomes a little more uncomfortable. You can see that for everything that's good, there's something that's bad, but, well, bad or not super great. But I think it's time I talk about it. The price tag. $25 on paper seems like a really good price. Included scope, 30 round high quality drum, electronic flywheel blaster. The Storm Charge was that price and the Thunderbolt was that price. But there's a blaster in the same aisle that's $5 cheaper. And a lot of people love it. It's the Spectrum. The Spectrum is an insanely powerful, nimble, lightweight flywheel semi-auto blaster. The same thing that the Rogue is. And it's just... it's $5 cheaper for more stuff and higher power. And normally I'm not the type of person who cares about power level, but it can even take the drum. It can take these mags. It can take Nerf mags. $5 cheaper for objectively better performance. And that is unfortunate. The Rogue is super cool. Don't get me wrong. It's got its merits to it, and as a bonus, once this blaster does go on sale for $15 or so, buying this thing exclusively for the drum is honestly worth it. This drum works with basically any Nerf blaster. This drum works with your Spectrum, giving you that nice bit of capacity that can just overwhelm your opponents. Bonus, even works on something like the Rebel, so you can buy the Rebel and this and just use the Rebel. Also, the Rogue does work with the Air Warriors 8-round mags. It's not a fantastic setup, but it does work. But when we get down to it, it's a really tough recommendation because a better blaster is in the same aisle. It's a tough one. If you like what the Rogue presents you, sure, go for it. It's a fun offering, and I think you'll be perfectly happy. But if you are more performance-oriented or more competitive, it's a toss-up. If you need that extra 20 or so FPS and that way more comfortable trigger, because being able to do that really effectively is great. If you need something more competitively viable, yeah. If it doesn't really matter and you really like the aesthetics of the Rogue, sure, you'll have a good time with it. It's certainly not a bad blaster at all. I just kind of wish it was a little cheaper because when you compare with something as great as the Spectrum, you can get left behind pretty fast. But for everything that is being offered here, 30 round drum, 30 darts, and a semi-auto blaster, it's a good blaster. At the end of the day, the Rogue is a very good blaster. It doesn't really have the value that I'd want it to have, especially considering it's coming from Air Warriors. But for when it goes on sale, yeah, 20 would feel pretty great. 20, I think it's a toss-up between these two. Do you like the drum and just want to have something, or do you need something competitively viable? More competitively viable. I don't think the Rogue is bad at all. When it goes on sale for 15, I think it's kind of a no-brainer by that point. Just for the 30 darts and the drum. Then it becomes, just like how the Easy Fire was, becomes a mag refill pack. But until that moment, I'm not sure. It's kind of in a weird recommendation limbo where, yeah, it's good for 25, but it could be better. I think a sale is advisable. Unless you just really like this thing. I certainly am not upset at 25. I certainly would not be upset for 20. And I certainly would probably pick up a second one for 15. But it's a weird one. It's a weird one. And I hate to kind of leave reviews all sort of jumbled up like this, but wait for a sale would be my number one recommendation. But I don't want to make it seem like this blaster is bad. It's not. It's a very compelling package that certainly has some issues to it, but also has some merit to it. wait for a sale. That's all I can really say. So that's going to be my video review on the Air Warriors or Adventure Force Rogue. It's fine, you know? Wait for a sale. That's what I'll be saying. As always, if you like what I do around here, feel free to like and subscribe. I've got a lot of cool stuff coming out, and now that this one's been recorded, I don't think I have any more reviews that I need to do, at least for stuff that I need to get to now. So you'll see some cool stuff from me. And if you have any questions or have any requests, feel free to leave a comment. I should be around to answer some questions on this blaster. I did do some extensive testing on this before the review, as always. And I'm really satisfied with it. I think it's a decent enough package, but is better with a sale. And of course, as always, you don't need to buy it just because a reviewer told you to. Now, maybe not for this one, but that certainly has some merit. That statement certainly has some merit when you talk about reviewers who say you need to buy this immediately. Don't need to buy it at this moment. You have time. You don't need to worry about that. And if it doesn't speak to you, it doesn't speak to you. You don't have to worry about it. And as always, take it easy. And I'll see you in whatever my next project happens to be.